Cafe 9 coming 00008.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jim Manning, Chairman of the Ad Hoc Committee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Manning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Manning.
Good afternoon.
Hello, hello to each box. Call the meeting to order and the roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Balanowski,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Manning,
Here.
Myers.
Let me note for the record that I've received a text message from Councilwoman Myers who says I'm running late on a call and will be late for our 2 p.m. meeting. All righty, item number 2, approval of minutes. We have committee meeting from September 22nd and October 20th. We can do those individually, or I'll accept the motion to accept both of those.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms.
I move that we accept items A and B for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve items 2A and B. Any discussion? All those in favor by aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, consider that approved. I'm looking at all my boxes. I don't believe we have other council members for me to recognize. If I'm missing somebody, please let me know. Thank you. Item number 3, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been properly moved and second for approval of the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimously approved. Item number 4A, Decker Woodfield Neighborhood Improvement Plan, Faraway Drive Sidewalk Contract Award. You've got that information on pages 16 through 19. I would appreciate a motion on that, please.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval for item 4A.
All righty, you hear the motion for approval
Second, Mr. Chair.
and seconded. Discussion. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question. This is within the monies allowed by the penny tax. Mr. Neermeyer.
Thank you for the question. Yes, Mr. Malinowski, that is well within the money permitted for the penny.
I mean, for this particular project, not the overall penny project.
Well, sir, the neighborhood improvement have a large pot of money. It was $65 million, and this is part of that $65 million. So the money is there.
I guess my question, maybe I need to rephrase it, is we may have 65 million, but do we have other NIP projects coming forward that will have enough of a balance to complete and not get shortchanged because we're paying them up on the front end?
Yes, sir. There's looking at the D-scope plan from May, I don't believe there were any particular NIP projects that had to be de-scoped. So that has been before this committee and the council since inception is within the amount allotted per the ordinance.
Thank you.
Sir.
Additional discussion. I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Teratios joined the meeting. All right, all those in favor by aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is mitigation credit sales, Weyerhaeuser NR Company for the I-26 interchange widening 2. That information is on pages 20 through 39. And just for your information that we understand that the sales notice says the sale must close prior to November 30th, but Mr. Epps has informed the buyer of our timeline because that's often an issue here. And this is a second request for purchase of mitigation credit sales by this company. So if you think, I thought we already did it, I remember this name, it's because they had bought credits and are looking to buy additional credits. They're looking to buy them in the amount of $189,520.94. Do I have a motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Been moved. Second by Mr. Malinowski. Discussion.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Malinowski.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Malinowski and then Mr. Livingston.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And since we've got time, I'll ask it now, because I didn't ask it the last lengthy meeting. During the agreement portion, where we list the sale of credits, is there a legal reason why we put in there that the purchaser is going to purchase from the seller 0 amounts of specific items? I mean, that's kind of like me going to a restaurant and when I get the bill, it says, and by the way, you've purchased 0 amount of dessert, so your balance is 0 for that. I'm just wondering why we put in things that to me don't seem necessary and extra words for us to read. If they're not buying it, they're not buying it. Why do we have to emphasize it with a 0? Just put down what they're buying, unless legally we have to do it. That's my question.
Michael, did you want me to answer that? This is Quentin.
If you would, Mr. Epps, I appreciate that.
Mr. Manning, can I be recognized?
Yes, please go.
Mr. Malinowski, the reason that it's in there is that is the form that we use, and it has, wetlands or streams. And so if there's 0 stream credits, then they just leave it in there as so it's basically just the form that we use to make sure that all the information is presented in the same way each time.
Okay, so let's not be innovative and step forward and do only what we need to do. It's a good thing we don't have 20 different items to list, because we could have 19 zeros written out there, longhand and shorthand, followed by the one item they're purchasing, because we have a form that we follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Others?
Yes, just a quick question. Now, again, where would the funds go for this purchase? Does it go back into the penny program, or where? What happens to the revenues in the program?
Recognize Mr. Manning?
Yes, please.
That's correct, Mr. Livingston. All the proceeds from the sale go into an account in the penny program, and those funds are held there.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Manning.
Go ahead, Ms. McBride.
So if we do not approve this, the county could lose $146,000 plus.
That's,
Or am I reading that wrong?
no, that's correct. And they could buy these from somebody else.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If there's no further discussion, I would like for the clerk to please reference page 14 of 40 of our agenda. And that is the minutes from the September 22nd, 2020 meeting. And if you'll please add to the minutes of this meeting, if you go down on page 14 of 40 under item E, by mitigation sales, building homes, the third paragraph under that, where Ms. Myers stated, for the record, her quote, I renew my concern. If you'll add that wording down to the last sentence, don't include the for that reason I'll be voting no again. But if you'll just include that for the record, for Ms. Myers, I would
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. Unless there's objection from the committee. All right.
Is that Ms. Myers asked for that?
Well, she says it every time, and the fact that she can't be here, I'll respect her that she would say that if she were here. So I'm going to inject that into these minutes on her behalf.
Mr. Manning,
Yes, ma'am.
because she's not here, I don't know whether that would be appropriate, because this isn't, even though it's assembly, it's just still new.
Okay, well, since there's objection, then we will not do that. Have the motion and a second and have had discussion. All those in favor of this purchase of the mitigation credit sales, or for the mitigation credit sales, in favor by aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, that's unanimous. Our next item is 4C, FY21 Transportation Ban Bond. And we have our financial advisors on the line. You received an agenda briefing on this item, I don't know how many pages packet, but it has information from our bond attorney and all. We just, for your information, that on here, so we have Ray Jones and David Cheatwood in the meeting to answer questions. Historically, when Councilman Jackson chaired this committee, his preference was to provide data for both a ban or a bond. And based on guidance from Council Chairman Livingston and myself as chair of this committee, I asked the staff to make a recommendation. And so the staff is recommending what they refer to in this packet as the preferred bonding option and forward to council for consideration. So that being said, I'll entertain a motion and then we'll have discussion.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the staff recommendation as indicated on page 3 of 4 in the document for the bond option.
All right, it's been moved. I have a second. I will second that so we can move forward with discussion.
I'm sorry, I was muted, Mr. Manning, that second.
All right, we'll let Councilwoman McBride second since I'm chairing the committee.
Can you tell me in what paragraph on page 3 that is, Mr. Livingston? All the way down where it starts.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, where it starts Parker Poe.
Right.
You have to really get into it to find that because the recommended action on the very first page, they recommended approval of 1 or 2.
Yeah, it is a little embedded. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I did notice that after I got reading it. Is there any reason we don't have a third option on here, which was discussed a long time ago, prior to the first ban being issued, and that was a pay-as-you-go option? Can anybody explain why that would not be an option right now?
Well, yes, certainly that could be an option, Mr. Malinowski. It was not staff recommendation. That's sort of a default, not related to ban or bonding, but certainly can be something we consider. It does appear, though, that if we did, as Mr. Livingston made the motion and Councilwoman McBride seconded, that if we moved in this direction, it would, this step would then ultimately put the council in the position where we ought to be able to do pay-as-you-go henceforth.
Thanks, sir.
Which I'm really excited about it. If we can finally get to the point of one more time dealing with ban bond that would put us in pay-as-we-go, it would certainly, as I leave council, be a nice place to leave us.
And Mr. Manning, one other question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe more of a comment than a question, but when this gets to the full council, if possibly, if we're supposed to be presenting or providing all of the options, then I would like to see that pay-as-you-go option in there and explained to the council and the public as well as you just did, that we may be on our way to doing something like this so that everybody knows exactly where we are with this. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there any objection from any committee members to our doing that?
Mr.
Well,
Manning,
I'm not clear on the option Mr. Malinas is talking about, because there might be 2 other options I can put in here too. I don't know how you get limited the options you would consider.
Well, bring your options up then.
Well, I prefer staff options though, so no need to bring them up.
All right.
I'm just saying there are options. I didn't say there was options I agreed to. I'm just saying there are different options.
The only reason I brought that up, Mr. Livingston, is that was an option that was in front of the full council prior to the first ban being approved, and we had the choice.
Oh, okay.
Three choices of ban, bond, or
You're not talking about a new option. You're talking about something we've already seen.
no, yeah, something we've already.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ms. McBride?
Well, the two options are the ones that staff recommended. Now, these are some of the same ones that had been discussed previously. Is that not correct, Mr. Manning?
Yes, these are all three options that since we, at the time, council voted for the possibility of bonds, every time since, there are always three options: bond, ban, pay as you go.
Mhm. Okay. I thought we just voted on these two. I mean, I thought we decided on these two, but we always included the pay as you go. I thought we decided on these two. So maybe I'm mistaken. I thought we decided on the ban or the bond option as a committee.
I'm not saying that's not accurate. I just think that Councilman Malinowski and I certainly don't object as the chair to put in an option that really is, in essence, would be the no on a bond, no on a ban, and then you'd be left with, you'd only have an option of pay as you go. So just to list that and have that included at the council level with this committee's recommendation to full council to accept the staff's recommendation or the motion, I just think it's kind of ministerial, to be honest with you.
I agree with, I accept Mr. Malinowski's recommendation. And also that I think at the council meeting, we should be given either by legal or somebody an overview of this information again.
Okay, I think that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chair, this is Ray Jones. May I add a little bit of color to that for the committee?
Well, if you feel as you must.
Well, I'm just, hopefully it'll clarify things a little bit.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
So,
Sure, go ahead.
I think what's important is that over the years, the council has made various decisions about whether to borrow or not borrow. And the fact of the matter is the funds have been borrowed, and a lot of the funds have been spent. And so when you think about options, there in February of next year, the county will have an obligation to repay about roughly $128 million. And so when you think about the options that we're considering, I think in my mind, at least, I sort of break the analysis into two pieces. The first piece is, what do we do relative to that obligation in February? And then the second piece is, to your point and Mr. Malinowski's point, what do we then do in terms of paying for projects going forward? The money that's been borrowed and the money that needs to be paid back is largely spent. And I'll let Mr. Niemeyer, if he wants to chime in, but based upon the numbers that I looked at, it's largely spent or it has been set aside for certain projects. So in doing a borrowing now, we're not really funding projects on a go-forward basis. We're effectively making a plan to deal with the debt that's outstanding. And if you look at that bond option, it actually, I think, checks two boxes. It comes up with a way to repay the debt that's due in February. And then it also sets the county on a course going forward. And that course is to take care of projects on a pay-as-you-go basis. So I just wanted to, I guess, make that distinction between what we're dealing with in February and then what things look like going forward. And the bond option enables a repayment of the obligation in February, spread out over 7 years, and then thereafter, no additional borrowing to fund projects, only pay as you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That's what I understood it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else want to give clarity?
No, but I want clarification on the clarity.
Oh, you go right ahead, Councilman Miles.
Now that the door's opened up.
Yeah,
Mr. Jones, you said that in February, if the bond option is chosen in February, the council will have the option to pay back the amount that's owed. And you stated, used the term, you said over 7 years. So we're getting a bond and paying the bond back over 7 years then?
Yes, sir. So talking about taking the amount that would be outstanding and repaying it with a bond, locking in the interest rate today, because the amount must be repaid. You know, in other words, it's an obligation of the county.
I know that.
You could either pay cash, which is set forth in the briefing, would cause issues in the program, or you can finance it. And your financing options are generally either do a ban, which is 1 year under state law, or you can do a bond and lock it in over 7 years. For a lot of reasons, and I'll certainly let David Cheatwood or others weigh in here, the recommendation, both from the staff and the county's professionals, is to borrow over that 7-year period, given where interest rates are right now. So that's what's being put forward today, Mr. Malinowski. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, except for we don't have any figures, and I'd like to have them by the time we get to council. We don't need to continue here on this as to what that annual interest amount will be on the payback per year. You can give that to me when we get to council. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Mr. Cheatwood, you don't want to weigh in, do you?
I am happy to weigh in. The only thing I would say to Mr. Malinowski, I think in that document in your packet, it does show the, this is attachment 1. It does show the comparison of what your long-term bond over that 7-year period and just.
I saw that attachment and I was totally befuddled by what in the world that attachment was on scenario 1 and 2. So don't try to explain it now, please. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll call you, Mr. Malinowski, and explain to you.
Okay.
I
don't see a whole lot of difference in the two.
Thank you, Chairman Livingston. Let the record note that Mr. Livingston will give an education to Mr. Malinowski before we get to full council. And, you know, Mr. Jones and Ms. Cheatwood, do appreciate you're wanting to weigh in, clarify. I think historically, when we get to full council, no matter what gets discussed here, we end up having with bond and ban and pay as you go. We always sort of have to redo it all when we get to council. And so there's some sentiment of no need to do it here and do it again there. So that's part of what I'm doing as the chair at this point.
And that's why I said don't have to do it now. I mean, we got acronyms in here that aren't explained, and we got interest costs in here that show an interest percent, but not a dollar amount, unless that's referring to the dollar amount above it. There's just a whole lot in there that to me should be clarified a little better. That's all. Let's move on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. And I trust that between Chairman Livingston and Mr. Niemeyer and the support of the others, that hopefully we can get the acronyms and some of the other things for our committee member Malinowski before the meeting, so that we'll be ready to rock and roll there. Any further discussion? Are we ready to move on this motion? All righty.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, the motion is to accept the staff's recommendation, which is the Parker Poe. The staff recommends bond option. That's the motion.
Correct.
All right, I'm going to do roll call on this one. Will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Malinowski,
No.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. And do we have any other business to come before the committee? Right. Well, before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody that's joined us and participated in the meeting for the work that you do on behalf of the citizens of Richland County. Mr. Ratio, thank you for joining us, council member, and my colleagues on the committee. Thank you very much, staff, all the staff, but particularly Mr. Niemeyer, Ms. Steele, the leaders of our transportation department. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Manning, move to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.